Hello and welcome back. Today we continue our discussion on the European air quality policy. We focus on how implementation is organized in member states, who's responsible, and who coordinates policy implementation. I want to welcome our local experts, which you already met in the previous video. Welcome to Katina Bonjeva, attorney at law of Ikimiev and Partners, and representative of the Association for European Integration and Human Rights in Plovdiv, Bulgaria. Ingrid Winter from the Air Quality Control Office of the Regional Government of Steiermark in Graz, Austria. Giorgio Arduino from the Emissions and the Environmental Risk Office of the region of Piemonte in Torino, Italy. And Cor Lames, Mayor of the Municipality of Schiedam from the Netherlands. Let's start. How is the implementation of this policy organized in Austria and in Land Steiermark?
Yes, in principle, the obligation to take action for air quality stems from the Federal Emission Control Act. But within the regional government of Styria, we have set up a task force which deals with air quality and which has to set up the air quality program. Mm-hmm. And within this task force, there are members of all departments of the public government, of the regional government, and the smaller working groups which are working on details of the air quality program, also include representatives from the municipalities, from universities, and also from some other scientific institutions.
How is the implementation of the clean air policy organized in Bulgaria?
Well, it is defined in the law, and on the top of the competent state bodies pyramid is the Ministry of Environment and Water, and the representative of it is the Minister itself of Environment and Water, and it implements the National Environment Protection Policy. Mm-hmm. On local level, we have the so-called regional inspectorates of water, of environment and water, and they are a division of the ministry, and they have directors ensuring the conduct of this national protection policy at the relevant region. It's important to know that these regions are not the administrative regions of Bulgaria because these regions concerning environment are 16, and we have another administrative regions. So we have these inspectorates which are 16, and we also have administrative regions which are governed by regional governments also having competence on environment matters. We also have on municipality level the competent authority as the mayor, and we also have some specialized body in the Ministry of Environment and Water having monitoring and analytic functions, and that's the Executive Environment Agency, which is responsible for the direction of the National Environment Monitoring System.
How is implementation organized? Who's responsible? You already indicated that it is a matter of multi-level governance, so I'm very curious how this plays out in the Netherlands.
Yeah, it is multi-level governance. The national cooperation program is leading, but we have organized together with the national and the local and the regional levels that there's a monitoring tool, there's a program that requires regular updates on the current situation about air quality, and we can measure from month to month which effect is gained. We also provide a framework and facilitates all measures, especially by the local governments, because not always the knowledge about air quality is available on the local level. So that is facilitated by the regional and the national level. And I must say there is a kind of difference in responsibility. The large industries, for instance in the Rijnmond area, are the responsibility of the regional level, because of knowledge and the effect on the air quality, and the smaller industries are the responsibility of the local levels. But the local level and the regional level have to discuss with each other about the good choices.
The responsibility is within the regional governments because there is no air quality program set up at the national level. So at the national level, there is no common air quality program, so therefore there's also no comparable task force implemented. Generally speaking, air quality issues on the national level are included in the programs for climate protection and NEC, but there's no special air quality programs.
To me, this seems a very complex setup in a certain way, because there are different governments working together. How is the coordination organized? Are there any problems?
It seems complex, but I'm very comfortable about it, because you must put on the responsibilities as low as it is possible, so that the effects are as great as possible. But we have a coordination need, that's right, and that's one part of the national cooperation program, the monitoring tool. It's a part of the job.
Yes, we do have problems since there are so many bodies. When it comes to a problem affecting, for example, just one municipality, the law says that the responsible bodies are the mayor or the director of the local inspectorate, which is the problem. And then when it comes to a problem affecting one administrative region, the responsible bodies are the regional governor or the director of the inspectorate. When there are several municipalities covered by one inspectorate and they are affected, then only the director of the inspectorate is responsible. And if several municipalities are affected, which are governed by different inspectorates, then the minister itself is responsible for that. But however, the fact that the law is imprecise on who is to be addressed with some problem, maybe the best way is to answer everybody, so that maybe someone pays attention to it.
Yes, it sounds like a very complex organization of this policy. Aren't there any problems then with coordination by kind of, let's say, linking the one with the other?
Well, the final decision should be made maybe by the minister, because in the law it says that when it's not clear who could be responsible for some action, the minister decides which body should take actions. But I continue to think that it's the best way to ask everybody to try and solve the problem.
Who is overseeing this process, and what happens if someone isn't, let's say, achieving the goals, the objectives which are being set also in the national cooperation program?
In the end, it's the national government who is responsible for the program as such, and then can impose, after consultation, additional measures if necessary.
Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, the implementation process is overseen by the federal government. The responsibility within this procedure of the provinces is to give a detailed feedback to the national government once per year with a standardized feedback form. And on the basis of this feedback, the federal ministry oversees, in cooperation with the Austrian Environmental Agency as the experts, the implementation process. And the federal state is then also reporting this data to the European Commission and is responsible for the processing of the infringement procedures with the European Commissions.
We have a facility because we have a general diffuse system of monitoring. That means more or less 100 points of measure all over my region. That measure every day, every hour, continuously. Several parameters, not only parameters by laws like PM10, but even other strange metal or salt or other things. This costs a lot, but this is mandatory for the reporting. But this means that you have a strong arm for control all over the Europe, using also a modeling that we have. If one policy is well implemented, because sometimes many policy, especially policy regarding traffic, for example, are implemented only on paper and they are not active. Because if I receive, for example, we have finished our low emission zone, tot kilometer by tot kilometers, this is fantastic, see you soon, and stop. But for example, this zone where means that it's a part of the city where nobody moved before and nobody moved after, and the other zone that have to be elected like a low emission zone remain exactly like before. In the station, you maintain the same level. So it's practically immediately the use of the number. And this is through. And this is only, not only, this is also easy for Europe control what's happened all over the Europe.
What is very interesting in your case is that there is another way of monitoring how, let's say, governments are dealing with EU policy, and that's through the court system. In your case, you made a case against the municipality of Plovdiv about, let's say, the implementation of the clean air policy, at least on the aspects the municipality has to take into account. How did the court system handle your case? Could you share some of your impressions?
Yes, well, maybe the first thing to be mentioned is that the case is now in its 5th year, and now and still going on, and that's the first problem. It's too slow. And then the second thing to be mentioned, maybe it's the only good impression right now, is that when the court received the case as a first instance, the special judge was devoted to it, to study the materials, to work on it, and in fact, this judge, she was leaved. She was not assigned any other cases for 2 years. And so that made a perfect, environment to her to study everything and to answer all the questions raised in that case. Well, of course, we have a lot of disappointments because we have problems with the distribution of the burden of proof because we as plaintiffs, we were said that we need to prove what measures the municipality should have taken in order to be effective. And we needed to stress on the case of Dieter Janecek, which is ECJ case, saying that it's not our job to say what are the means that are effective to solve the problem, and the municipality is the body responsible for that. We only need to show that the standards are not met still, and it passes to the municipality to say why they have taken measures and why they are not effective right now. And maybe another thing which is very important is the fact that during the case trial, the municipality changed the position of one of the measuring stations. It is a transport-orientated station, and it was in the center of the town where most of the traffic goes. And then they took the station from there and moved it to one of the quarters of the town, which is distant and which is mostly a place where people go after job.